Hey, I'm Dean and this is Legacy Voyage. In Season 1, I'm documenting my journey to earning my first 100K net worth as a full-time college student. Join me as I share some of the lessons I learned along the way.
One of the guys who was presenting at the event, his name was Samoan dude. So the way his story starts off is his parents, like most Polynesian Pacific Islanders, they were from the island, and then they moved from the island, immigrated over here to America, and his family, they went to LA, and not the rich, nice part of LA. I'm talking about the tough parts of LA. So this man came from like a family of 20 kids, not 20 kids, 10 kids. He came from a family of 10 kids. And being in LA, the heart of gang violence, he really got caught up in all that stuff. And being in gang violence, he lost some of the closest people to him. Lost a cousin. Toughest part was he lost his brother. And out of that, one of the biggest lessons, the thing I want to focus on in this episode, is after he experienced that huge loss, after he experienced the loss of his brother, there's two decisions, there's two paths that he could have chosen. And he said he could have either transferred the pain or transformed the pain. And that was one of the key takeaways. Because I've heard stories, people who I'm close to. Luckily, me personally, I haven't been caught up in that type of gang violence or street crime, stuff like that. But I definitely know people who did get caught up in that stuff. And it was so interesting seeing the contrast and the difference between where this guy's at and where all the other people I know and where they're at. Because that guy's story, after going through gang violence, after losing his cousin, after losing his brother, you can't imagine how tough that would be. But even after all of that, he pursued football. He got a football scholarship, went to college. I think he went to one of the UC schools. He went to a UC school, graduated, and then from there, he eventually became an entrepreneur. Now that dude, he has like a clothing brand. He's got a restaurant. I didn't really think he knew his stuff. I was iffy about him. He was talking all this stuff about business and about finances and branding, all that stuff. But me personally, I wasn't sure what to make of it. Like, he could just be another guy who somehow did all this stuff, but he doesn't really know what he's doing. But as he kept talking and talking, he hit on a lot of points that it's very personal to the culture. Like, he hit on one of the biggest things was health, something that no one talks about in the culture. It was very typical for a Polynesian parent over, let's say, the age of like 40. Once they hit 40, overwhelming majority of Polynesians are obese, even younger than that. But especially 40 and up, 30 and up, like overwhelming majority. And this guy, he was hitting on some of those points about health. Another point he hit on was about respect and how if you raise your kids in this type of household where they got to respect their elders. That's how we grow up. We're grown up. We don't question what they say. We just go along with it. He was talking about how that's dangerous for a kid. If you raise your kid to not speak up, to not be confident whenever he has a opinion on his mind, then they're not going to go out and do that in the real world. And he was saying how harmful that is for them in their career, in their future. And I just thought his story was amazing. Like, his story alone, the fact that he came up through the streets and now he owns a bunch of businesses and he's doing all these big things, that alone is cool. But even more than that, that he's Polynesian, that this man's Samoan. I mean, when he was talking, first thing he said was the whole Samoan part. I was like, that is so sick. This man is legit Samoan, Polynesian. And the way he was able to connect all the things that he's learned to the culture, it really hit. And there were so many things that he said. There was a portion of his talk, very brief, where I was like, okay, this guy actually knows what he's talking about. When he was name dropping all the people he studied, like the founder of Blackstone, and I forgot the other companies, like Morgan Stanley, I think was one of them. He was talking about all the people that he's studying, dropping financial terms that I did not know about. And while he was up there, he was name dropping David Tafuna. He just kept wanting to bring up Wolfgram Capital and the Tongan real estate private equity firm. He kept name dropping them because he wanted to strike a deal with one of them. And at the end of his talk, he had a Q&A session. And David Tafuna, he went up there, he's like, asked him a question, hey, are you open to accepting capital? If you do accept capital, how much are you looking for? What are you going to do with that? And then the man up there was like, he was stunned a bit. He was like, oh, I don't know. You could tell he was kind of fumbling around at first, but then he found a pretty good answer, what I thought was a pretty good answer from my lack of experience. It seemed like it was a pretty good answer, talking about when you have an investor, it's not just about the money, it's also about the relationship. And if they have nothing to bring to the table outside of capital, then there's no point in the relationship. And there were other pieces of advice, information that he was dropping. Like what I mentioned before about adversity, said Got it from a quote else, I think like Aristotle or something. But he said, adversity introduces a man to himself. And that is so true because life is easy when life is easy. It's easy to go through things, go through the motions when there's no type of adversity, there's no type of hardships. But life is hard when it's hard because it matters more what you do at your lows, at the low points in your life. It matters more what you do in the face of adversity. And then another thing he said was in entrepreneurship, there's no off season. He got it from, I think Mark Cuban said it. There's Mark Cuban probably talking about basketball stuff and how there's an off season. But even I feel like at that level, at NBA level, you're not really an off season because in the off season, I mean, you're still working just as hard. Not just as hard, but you're still working, keeping the physique up and skills, stuff like that. But he said in entrepreneurship, you don't take breaks. You're always going, always going. Yeah. And that's the story for this one. With the life update, I mean, things have been progressing. Ads running. We gotta make more ads. That's something I gotta work on. But I'm getting better with graphic design type things, graphic design and web development. And man, I will not lie. Entrepreneurship, it's it sounds amazing. It is not for the faint of heart. That is for sure. I remember I was just working and I overheard my dad get a call from someone, and it was about the drama that's going on to his employees. I'm like, man, that is so extra. But that's the type of stuff. I mean, he has to deal with everything. And the other thing that's going on right now is my dad, he's really trying to think of how to scale the assisted living business that he has. Right now he owns 3 homes. And I'm trying to think of it too. Because with the agency, I'm really trying to figure out what's the best way to move forward. I think right now I'm just thinking too far into the future. Probably the best thing to do is take it one step at a time. Look at the one thing that I need to accomplish today. Get that done, move on to the next thing, then move on to the next thing. Because I'm probably stalling too much over the details when I should really just put my head down and get to work. Oh, and then another thing is I want to start doing, I guess it's more of a personal project or passion project, an academic weapon thing. Maybe I should just keep focusing on the agency. Yeah, it's so difficult to say no. There's so many opportunities that I could be doing and that I'd probably be pretty decent at going after any of those things if I put my all into one of them. It's so difficult to say no. That's the thing that I really, really need to work on. But yeah, that's everything for this episode. I'll see you in the next one.